Hello and welcome back to Eve's Book Nook. I am Eve and today we are doing the aesthetically pleasing book tag. So this is just a simple book tag where you seek out some physical books that you own that meet the criteria of beautiful books in some way or the other. I have a bunch of books on my lap. You can't really see them right now, but there's also like a billion in front of me. So I'm just gonna get started because otherwise I'm going to drown in books. Okay, so question number one is best color combo on a book cover. And just FYI, because I have decision fatigue from every other aspect of my life, I've picked out a lot of books for most of these, so bear with me. You can actually kind of see, if you're looking at my bookcases, there's some like vacancies where like normally books would be. Anyways, best color combo on a book cover, I've picked two. The first, and I think probably the best overall, is The Seven Moons of Molly Almeida. This won the Booker Prize in 2022, and it got on my radar as a result of that prize. I don't think I would have heard about it otherwise. It's by a Sri Lankan author, and it is, well, I don't need to go into the descriptions. I guess this is aesthetic. It's a vanity game here. So, but I do encourage you to pick up this book. I really enjoyed it. I do think it was like a little too smart for me. I don't know a lot about Sri Lankan history. And, you know, with a kind of a nation state in distress, because this takes place in Colombo in 1990 when there was sort of upheaval in their government, and a lot of warring factions trying to take power. Anyways, I digress again, but this book required a lot of context that I didn't have, and yet I enjoyed it still. So it was like kind of a book that I had to research while reading, but I do feel a little bit smarter as a result of getting through it. Anyways, again, I'm not going to do descriptions hopefully for most of these books unless I can't stop myself, but I just think this cover is so gorgeous. The spine too. Is that upside down? Yes, it is. The spine too. And yeah, I'm such a fan of this book, and I think I gave it either 4 or 5 stars. The other cover that sort of draws my eye in terms of just color combination is Agatha of Little Neon. This is by Claire Luchette. It's kind of, I try to get as true to color as I can. It's like a hot pink and then a neon lime green, like lemon lime sort of color. I just think it's really eye-catching, and I do like the simplicity of it as well. The naked hardback is just black, so there's nothing to write home about there, but I've always liked how this looks on my shelves because it's just so vibrant. Best typography or font on book cover, I've picked out 3 different options because I could not choose. The one that's most literal, best typography, it's because it's in the kind of a typewriter format, is 84 Charing Cross Road. This is by Helene Hanf? Apologies if I've mispronounced that. Loved this book as well. I actually picked this up on New Year's Day one year when I was on a vacation that was like New Year's Eve into New Year's Day with my family, and I picked this up, read it on New Year's Day, and I was like, oh, I've finished my first book of the year. It's I don't even know if you can call it a novella. It's an epistolary novella. It's less than 100 pages, but it's so fun. But yeah, literal typography here that I find charming and simple, and you can actually see on the spine here too. Oh gosh, I keep doing this upside down. I just really like the simplicity and how this looks on a shelf too. The next one that comes to mind is my edition of The Great Gatsby, which has gilded font, but definitely very Roaring 20s style of typography here. Same goes for the gilding on the edge, but I do prefer the kind of F. Scott Fitzgerald signature, and then The Great Gatsby is in that sort of Art Deco style that you saw in the 20s. And this, just for the record, in case anyone is curious, this is an Alma Classics. They sell these in the UK. I bought this online through Blackwell's. But I think Alma, the publisher, sells it too. And then lastly, for typography, I've got From Here to Eternity by Caitlin Doughty. This, you'll also see this author again in another prompt. But it's just, again, an eye-catching font here that I've always enjoyed. And this is cool end pages too that I just want to address because we're talking about pretty books, even if it's not meeting the criteria. You're seeing little Buddha shrines all through the end papers, and I think it's on both. Yeah, both spines. Sorry, I'm like putting the books down on my floor when I wrap up with them. The tag that I'm reading says best simply cover. I'm assuming that means best simple cover. I could be totally wrong about that, but I picked out 2 simple covers that have always appealed to me. The first, again, I said Caitlin Doughty would appear again, is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. This is one of my favorite books of all time. This is a nonfiction about the American funeral industry, funerary industry. She works as a mortuary scientist. I think she's in the crematory. She's a licensed mortician, and she's also the host of a series, which I think is a YouTube or web series called Ask a Mortician. And she's founded a collective called the Order of the Good Death. For those of you that are not from the United States, there is sort of an industry, a funerary industry that differs from a lot of other parts of the world, particularly the Eastern Hemisphere. And it is expensive to die in the US, like it is, it's expensive to live in the US and to survive. It mimics our healthcare industry, but she talks a lot about funerary practices across the globe and kind of how the US came to be what it is today in terms of how people die and the cost of it. And it's obviously very macabre, as you might expect, but if you are comfortable reading about death, this is a weird thing to talk about on the channel, but if you're comfortable reading about that, you should totally pick this book up. It gets a little gory at times, as you might expect, but she handles a sensitive subject with grace, and I learned so much while reading it and have a lot of kind of new outlooks on the funerary practices in the US as a result of it. Okay, moving on. The other simple cover, sorry if you can see this sort of like reflective, I've got my iPad in front of me so I can see the prompts, but the other best simple cover, I have Gigi and the Cat by Colette. This is one of those vintage classics with the red spine, very simple illustration here, and I love that the only color, besides obviously the Colette name, which is the case on all of their red spine covers, like the author's always in red, is just her red lipstick. So that's fun. Okay, let's see. Best end pages. Oh, this might be my favorite one. So best end pages, I have picked a lovely, charming book, The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. And I also want to call your attention to the back cover here. So this book, if you can't tell, and I'll try to make it a little bit closer to your to the camera here. This is in kind of an embroidered style, and actually the cover is embossed to make it feel textured like actual threads would be. But the reason I picked this for best end pages, it's got French flaps here. If you flip it over, it looks like the underside of, what would this be, cross stitch? Embroidery? Forgive me, I'm not a craftswoman myself. But just kind of the needle and thread style here. I'm trying to see if they talk about it. This is Jillian Tamaki's embroidered artwork, and it appears on, they did this in like a series a few years ago, probably 10 years ago now. But yeah, the final covers are embossed, and this is actually like she stitched these things and then they printed the image of it and embossed it. But I just think this is so cool that it's like kind of demonstrating how difficult this needle and thread work is. It comes off as simple, but then you look at the underside of it and you're like, holy cow, she put a lot of time and effort into this. And it's on the back as well. And the back, just so you know, it says, it's a quote from the book, "Oh bliss, oh poop poop, oh my, which is just adorable. But so if you're looking at the back, you also have the end pages for the back. So just super cool. It was a really creative direction that they took these penguin threads in. I wish I had all of them. Alas, I do not. I think that's the only one I have. But they had Little Women, which I've always wanted to get my hands on, and I've never been able to find it. It was in like my indie bookstore for like a year, and I didn't pick it up because I thought it would be more of like how the Penguin Deluxe editions are just like around now all the time. I thought it would be like that. Alas, it was a limited edition sort of thing, so I missed my chance. But they had that. They have Black Beauty, The Wizard of Oz, and The Secret Garden. And that, I can still find The Secret Garden. I'm less enticed by that than I am by some of the other designs, but anywho, I love those. They're so cool. Okay, best map. My book pile is gonna topple over here. Best map, I chose the second in a duology, so forgive me, but Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. This is the second book in the Six of Crows. Is it just called the Six of Crows duology, or does it have another name? It's like the add-on duology to the Grishaverse. I wish I knew. If anyone knows if this duology has a separate name besides Six of Crows, please do comment below. Anyways, it's got cool red end pages. I don't read a lot of YA fantasy, so I don't have a lot of like sprayed edges on my shelves, but I think this looks awesome. The reason I picked this one, first of all, it has maps, so met the criteria, but it has two maps. So this is the map of the world this takes place in. Most of this story, let me think, most of this story I think takes place in Kerch, which is the kind of island down here. They travel from Fjerda down this direction, but it also has a second map, which I feel like a lot of books that have maps, you only get one. This is a map of the city of Ketterdam, which is where a lot of the second half of the novel takes place. Just super cool, detailed. She clearly thought a lot about these maps. The first book has maps too, and the first, like the world map is duplicated, but I thought that the city of Ketterdam is kind of cool to follow along with. And I do appreciate when authors clearly took part in the making of the map themselves, because sometimes the map doesn't match the story. Like, oh, you take a left on this street and you end up, you know, we'll say you take a left on Johnson and you end up on Stone Avenue. Sometimes in the map they'll be parallel instead of perpendicular or something like that, and that just always bothered me. So I appreciate that there was enough thought in those maps to match the story. Okay, best naked hardback is the next one. I again have two selected here. The first is The Last Cuentista, and this is by Dona Barba Higuera. This won the Newbery Medal. I don't know when this came out. I want to say in the 2020s, but let me take a look. 2021. But the cover itself is amazing. I love it, like the actual dust jacket. But then the naked hardback, first of all, glossy. We love to see it. I think that just makes it more durable. But it's just this sort of snake constellation through space. And this snake is actually like this snake constellation, I should say, is part of the story. It's like the fable that her grandmother tells her, one of the kind of stories that she's passing down. So first of all, it ties in well. It's not just a design, but I just think it's nice that it's, you know, it's a very pretty constellation that they've done here. Okay, I'll sort that out later. The other naked hardback, I actually don't have the dust jacket for it because I like the naked hardback so much more. This is called Religion for Atheists, and I do not speak French, so forgive me, but I think it's Hélène de Botton, the author's name. The subtitle is A Non-Believer's Guide to the Uses of Religion. I have not read this book. This is actually one of the few that I've selected that I have not read myself, but I just think that's a really cool naked hardback. It has a design on the spine, it has a design on the cover, it carries from front to back, and it's the story of Adam and Eve, as you can see here. And then you've got a little goat on the back. And does this have end pages? It does not. This book has great illustrations as well. Okay, next on the list is best back cover. I don't have a lot of books. I had slim pickings here. But I chose the best back cover. Oh, this is a hunk of a book. Is Alice in Wonderland, and it also has and Other Stories by Lewis Carroll. This was I think I got this at Barnes & Noble, or was it Borders when that was still alive and well? I think it's Barnes & Noble. This could have qualified for anything. I mean, it's got beautiful end pages. I mean, wow, look at that. Draws in the story. I think it has back ones too. I don't know if it's the same image or not. Nope, different. So just beautiful there. It has a front and a back cover. It has illustrations on the pages, so it does it all. I like that the front has gilding, and in these little circles you can see kind of some of the subplots of that first story. And on the back you have the Mad Hatter with his timepiece and the knife that he uses for the butter and jam at the party. I just think this is amazing. And then up at the top here, I love on the spine, you can see the Cheshire Cat, and then, oh, when he disappears and you can just see his smile. Super cool. I love that edition. I don't particularly love that story, I'll be honest, but I've held on to that book because it is so well designed. Okay, let me see. Best chapter headers. I didn't have a lot of books to choose from here. I didn't go through every single book I own, but the ones that I thought might have it didn't. I picked An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good by Helene Thurston. This is translated by Marlene Delargy. This is sort of interconnecting short stories about a murderous old woman. It's surprisingly charming despite the theme. And I just want to show, so that all the end pages, or not, sorry, all of the chapter headers are their own page. And again, kind of a cross-stitch style. Although now that I'm saying this, I'm like, this I know is cross-stitch. So I think that The Wind in the Willows might have just been regular embroidery. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Any craftswomen and craftsmen in the bunch here. But yeah, each of the chapter headers is its own page, which I think is very fun. An elderly lady seeks peace at Christmas time, and when you know that she's gonna murder someone, it just makes me laugh. So that was my best chapter header selection. Next we have best illustrations. Again, kind of slim pickings here. I have some children's books, like I have Matilda, which I love. I guess I could have picked that one by Roald Dahl. But yeah, I didn't have like that many illustrations. There were some, I have a lot of books that have images, but they're not illustrated. But I picked Neil Gaiman's The Graveyard Book. This is the William Morrow publication. I picked it because it's sort of a unique illustration style that I hadn't seen before. It does look like these were drawn on like digital drawings, not like pen to paper or pencil to paper. I think it's pretty safe to say that these were done with like on an iPad or something, or on a computer, but they're super cool. This is a ghost or like a spirit of some kind. And I love when books have images and the text of the story moves around it. It's just a particular preference of mine. I do like when they're sort of interlaid through the story itself. That's beautiful. Okay, that's the best one I could come up with when I was selecting these books. I'm sure there's others, but that's the initial one that came to my mind. Let's see, best spine. Okay, that's what's on my lap right now. So bear with me because this is super hefty. Oh, and I'm gonna like break my back doing this. Best spine, I picked 6, but it's because they're a collection. Ooh, and it's super heavy. Okay, here we go. There we go. Okay, so these are the Russian classics by Vintage. Ugh, I'll go through them individually, but they're just insanely beautiful. And this, again, could have gone for a lot of things. This could have gone for best cover, typography. I do love the typographic style here. Best end pages. I mean, they're just incredible throughout. I actually have another video on my channel if anyone's curious about these. These are still available for sale, new. I I have a separate video that's like a flat lay video if you are interested in kind of looking through the editions and deciding if you're interested in picking these up. But we have, what was this for? Best Spine. Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I love this one. I think this actually might be my favorite of all of these, to be honest. I like the subtle pop of red. We have Life and Fate by Vasily Grossman. I've not read this, although I have read Stalingrad, which is the precursor that you don't need to have read, but I wanted to. The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. Bulgakov? I don't know where the accent is there. I think it's Bulgakov, but I could be wrong. War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. This is, for anyone that's like, oh, should I read War and Peace one day? This is one of the best books I've ever read. And I'm not just saying that, like, it's 1,000 pages, but like think about it as like it's 3 normal size books. However long it would take you to read 3 normal size books is probably how long it would take you to read War and Peace. Maybe add on an extra few days or maybe an extra week or so, just because there's some slow parts, but this was just insanely good, and I'm like, oh, I understand why this has stood the test of time. It's Dr. Zhivago by Boris Pasternak. But yeah, of the bunch, I think that the Anna Karenina spine and the Crime and Punishment spine are my favorites. Just like those designs the most. And then lastly, we have favorite cover on your shelves. I think probably any of, when I buy books, if I know that I'm seeking out a particular book, right? Like I'm going to a bookstore or shopping online for a particular book, I will compare covers. And this especially goes for classics because they're published across so many different publishers, especially if they're in the public domain. I will look at all of the options and select the one that I find most aesthetically pleasing myself. So my book collection, I don't just buy books because they're pretty, but I do seek out the prettiest version of a book I want to read, which I think makes this maybe more decorative than some other shelves in my house. But that being said, favorite cover, I mean, like that's really hard for me to pick because I do actively seek out covers that I love. So I've just picked a few. I picked 3 here that I haven't talked about in other questions in this tag yet, and I'll just go through them. The first is The Accusation by Bandi. Bandi? I think Bandi because it's a Korean author, and that's how the A tends to be pronounced. This is a North Korean author, and this is a pseudonym or a pen name because these are short stories, I think by a single author, that have been smuggled out of North Korea. Yeah, in fact, so I'll read the author description here. It's Bandi, a name derived from the Korean for firefly, is a pseudonym for a writer who is still living in his homeland of North Korea. The Accusation is his only published book to date. This is short stories by this author talking about life during the period of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il and their leadership. And it's 7 stories that are talking about the people living under this sort of bizarre and horrific dictatorship, finding life where life is not encouraged. And yeah, it's eye-opening. I will say it is not the best book I've ever read in my life in terms of writing quality. I'm not sure how much of it is lost in translation and how much of it is just, this is an author that has not been exposed to a lot of spectacular writing across the globe, given where he lives. But I do think that he clearly, these are stories written by a very smart person who has not had exposure to the spectacular storytelling of the rest of the globe. And again, I'm not sure how much of this is just that the translation might fail because there are no comparative phrases. And that's no shade to the translator. The translator, Deborah Smith, is a Man Booker winning translator. She won for The Vegetarian by Hong Kong, which is a great book. So clearly she did it justice in that one. And I'm wondering how much of this is, you know, a lack of vocabulary sharing between this North Korean dialect and English, and how much of it is the writing itself. I'm assuming most of it is the writing itself. But anyways, this book it was described by one newspaper as a great melancholy beauty, and I totally concur. Anyways, we're getting off track here, though I'm talking about the cover. I'm totally like stepping away from that. This image is a socialist realist mural, which is on the front of the Mangyeongdae School Children's Palace, depicting the proud students who attend the academy. And I just think, I've always thought this is super eye-catching. I even like the font too, but this cover, it just appeals to me. I don't know why. I can't like figure out how to hold things in frame. I just have always really enjoyed this cover. I like the illustrative style. Next one that comes to my mind is The Ottomans, A Cultural Legacy. This is by Diana Darke. Apologies, Diana, should you ever see this. This is a Thames and Hudson publication, and they just always knock it out of the park. Thames and Hudson tends to publish more art historical books, and so they really do take design into consideration when they are making their books. I mean, it's heavy pages, it's like high saturation color images, but just the gilding, and then this beautiful Ottoman textile, or is this mosaic? Actually looking at it now, I'm like, is it ceramic tile? Anyways, it's beautiful, whatever it may be. I've talked about this in another video too. Let me see if they talk about it anywhere, what the design is. A tile panel made in Iznik circa 1560, based round one of 97 different tulip designs covering the walls of Istanbul's, this is a mosque name, so bear with me, because I don't know this, how to pronounce this correctly, but it's Rustem Pasha Mosque. So just a beautiful tile design, but gorgeous. And then the last one, this is one that you've probably seen on BookTube before, because I think a lot of booktubers have this particular edition. This is the Virago Modern Classics Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Can't go wrong with some gilded edge. I love the tie into the red. I feel like this really works well with the story itself. Sort of that gothic, it's dark, it's moody, it has some allure. Yeah, I'm like at a loss for words at how pretty this is. Yeah, I've always loved this one. So those are just some of my favorites. To be honest though, I feel like when the day comes and I finally do a bookshelf tour, you'll see that like there's a lot of pretty books on the shelf because I've actively sought them out. So it felt a little bit like Sophie's Choice having to pick just 1, 2, 3 books for each of these criteria. But yeah, that's it for today. That is the aesthetically pleasing book tag. Let me know if you have any book editions. Like, please do list the edition if it's something you can find that you love on your shelves. Let me know if any of these appeal to you and you want to pick them up. I'm happy to comment back. It's not like I get such a high volume of comments that I can't share where I purchased them, and if they're still in stock, I will do my best to link these particular editions where I can in the description box below. Anyways, I hope you're having a great week, and I look forward to talking to you in the next video. Thanks!